I've been at McCann for quite a long time now and done lots of things, but I now really lucky get to work across a whole bunch of stuff with a lot of global clients, from Paris to New York to Tokyo. Bit of Canada going on at the moment, bit of India going on at the moment. It's quite fun. So that's what I do, and I'm also super proud that in McCann's world, Manchester is the centre of our social practice. It's where we work out best practice, we show the world how it's done. What I want to talk to you about is, this is a behaviour change brief. All of advertising is kind of behaviour change. We're asking people to do something. This is a really good one, because it's not saying go buy something, it's actually saying don't buy something. This has got a really big impact. And actually, I think we all understand the global impact of what this means. What is super interesting about this brief is, how do you bring it down to an individual and very local feel? What do we mean by a behaviour change brief? People want to act sustainably. Yes, I'm very concerned. Who isn't very concerned? I'm very concerned. But why am I not taking the action? Why are you not taking the action that is required to make this change? And there are a whole bunch of reasons for this. It's a bunch of stats that come through a Kantar report on the global sustainability sector. And I think there's some really kind of interesting reasons why. So yes, we know what we need to do. Why are we not doing them? And that's kind of the challenge that you've got today. Number one, convenience. Most people are in a rush. So they may well be concerned, but they're thinking, do you know what? Maybe next time. I can't bother today. I don't have time. I've got my child screaming. I'm just going to pick up this thing from the supermarket. Don't really care, right? So convenience, we say convenience is sort of the king of a lot of what goes on. Why do we keep ordering from Amazon when we know that individual deliveries and packaging over and over again is really quite wrong for the environment? We do it because it's convenient. Knowledge and awareness. Consumers think that climate change is a problem in the future. So the truth is, yes, we know it's a problem. Yes, we're concerned about it, but it's not happening to me here today now. But actually, what is happening here today now is I've got someone knocking on my door asking me to pay something. I've got to feed my children. I've got to do other things. So this problem is a little bit too far in the future for me to think about what I am doing today. Price and quality, especially right now. People are thinking about saving money over and above saving the environment. Accountability. Yes, I'm concerned, but I don't think it's fully my responsibility. Another thing that sort of comes into this a little bit is actually, I think it might be someone else's problem, so I think it's for the government to fix. I think seeing that energy circle, like, you know, isn't that the problem of the government to solve? Isn't that the problem of energy companies to solve? It's very easy to go, someone else's problem, they can make a bigger impact, I can't do anything about this. Availability. So people don't know where to find sustainable products. You obviously have a proportion of the population who are very good. You go out and we seek it, we're looking for those solutions, but for the everyday average person, unless it's really convenient and it's really in front of them, it's very easy. Actually, that effort of having to find and do can be a little bit too far. And then lastly, impact and fulfillment. So this is really interesting. I actually think 6 and 4 are kind of linked here, that people don't feel that their individual actions are going to do enough to have an impact. So, you know, I recycle all my plastic. When you look at a statistic that says that's only 3%, lots of people at that point will go, what's the point? Like, I can't change this. I can't make everyone do this. Those tiny individual actions are actually what we've got to generate here. So rather than, you know, I'm going to get the energy companies to change it, which we also have to do, we have to get every single person to take a small action. And actually the impact of all of the small actions leading to a big action is really difficult for people to imagine and see. So they don't do it, and actually then you miss it. And then I only do it 50% of the time. So how do you do it? How do you help people to feel they're making a positive impact and it's having a long-term effect if actually it's kind of a little bit invisible to them? So there's all the problems that we need to solve. There are actually 5 psychological levers that we can pull. So there are things that, from a behaviour change point of view, that we talk about. There are things that you can kind of lean into. Because the problem here is we can tell people what to do, but we have been telling people what to do. Look at the amount of content we've just seen saying, we've got a problem, we need to do something. Why are people not doing it yet? Why did they not take that action? Because actually the job of advertising and the job that we've got to do today is to emotionally connect with people, to tell them that actually their action can make a change, but we've got to do it in a way that really resonates with them, that builds an emotional connection. That doesn't mean like showing children crying. That means actually capturing their attention and helping them to feel that there is an impact for them. That isn't necessarily done by just saying, hey, the planet's going to burn if you don't recycle your plastic. That message has been out there for a long time, and it's worked to an extent, but it isn't going to get Stockport and Manchester over the line here. We've got to go further than that. So number one, nature connectedness. And what we mean by nature connectedness is people have a natural affinity to the natural world. Even if you live in a city, we have a soft spot for nature and the world around us. The natural world, and the natural world that potentially is on your doorstep. Stockport is in an incredible place. It is on the doorstep of the Peak District. Most people in Stockport have probably been into the Peak District at some point. So this idea of nature on your doorstep potentially being ruined is a really interesting emotional lever that you can pull. The second one is implementation intentions, and this talks to exactly what I was talking about before. It talks to the idea that what you do and what is going to happen are linked. The next one is a sense of control. In this one, that idea that, what I do isn't really driving any change is actually, and sort of that thing about what can I do? What can I do to make change here? How do I go about doing this? And giving me a sense of an easy way, I guess, giving consumers an easy way to understand how they can make impact in small ways is actually a really smart way of doing this. Next one is mitigating present bias. And what we mean by this is this idea that the challenge that was essentially, I'm doing this today, but I don't know the long-term effects. Like, I'm having to make decisions today, and I know that's important, but it's kind of a little bit too far away for me to have to think about. This is about that. This is about what can you do today that is going to fix the future. And then the last one is what we call social learning. So how do you help teach in a fun, interactive way, not a really preachy way, to help people to do better? So yes, again, instructional and informative, but how do you bring a really creative twist on this that will get people really engaged? So the 5 areas that we looked at, and what's actually going on here. So in terms of nature, we're talking about people's predisposition to connect with nature and what nature means for them, and that kind of real world environment is a really good kind of emotional thread that you can pull on. Implementation, so giving an action plan to consumers is a really powerful way to overcome that value gap. So, what can you help them to feel good about? How do you help them to sort of plot this out for themselves and go, okay, yeah, if I do this, I'm going to get this reward at the end of it. Sense of control. So when people feel they have the skills needed, this could get sort of super like, here's an instruction on how to do this. Think about that a little bit more, like how do you weave that into a creative story that helps to take people on the journey and gives them that sense of control rather than being kind of preachy at them. It's sort of the other way around. It's quite a tricky one to do. Mitigating present bias. So people do focus on the today. It's very much that thing we talked about at the beginning. Convenience means that I just make decisions like on the fly. How do you help them to see that purchase decisions and what the long-term effect is and sort of changing that behavior? This talked about buying a leg of lamb every Sunday. I suspect people don't have that much money anymore, given the cost of lamb anymore. But this might be about saying, how do you do something you do every day, do it less often, take the bus twice a day, get off 2 stops earlier, walk, what is it that you can do that you can weave into people's lives that help them to feel like that it's achievable really, and that today is easy to do rather than making it really difficult for them. And then lastly, kind of observing and modeling behavior. I mean, this one is sort of perfectly suited to a social world. Like, can you kind of raise a tribe by using influencers? Can you show and demonstrate and help people feel like they're part of it, at the base of which is a kind of, this is how we now need to behave, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it together. There is a real sense of like, together we can move this thing really, easily, tangibly, and we can see the results. So these are just some thoughts on helping you to shape how you might approach this brief. Take one of those challenges, take one of these psychological levers, take your brief and have a look at, can you apply this in a different way? And definitely the question to ask yourself is, where is that emotional connection? If we haven't done it already, if you've seen this message before and we know this, because we kind of all do, why haven't we done it? Why are people not changing their behavior? And it normally comes down to, it just doesn't kind of hit home in my head and my heart. And that's what makes effective advertising. That's it from me. Good luck. It's going to be super interesting to see what you all come up with. Thank you very much.